Oh, baby, another Howie WOWIE. The Eagles GM swinging a trade tonight on day 2 of the draft for Vikings edge rusher Jonathan Greenard. In exchange, the Eagles send the 98th pick this year, compensatory pick, plus a third-rounder in 2027 to the Vikings. Eagles also ink Greenard to a 4-year, $100 million contract, a major move to bolster the pass rush after losing Jalen Phillips in free agency. The Eagles kicked off their night by picking Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers with the 54th overall pick in the second round. Stowers won the Mackey Award as the top tight end in the country last year. Just picked the guys who won the best player awards. How about it? He had 62 catches for 769 yards and 4 tutties last season. Stowers was a quarterback when he first got to college and is a freak athlete who posted a 45.5-inch vertical. And how about capping off their night with an absolute mammoth of a man, Miami's Markeel Bell, offensive tackle from Miami. He's 6'9", 346 pounds. Could have checked in for the Sixers tonight. After 2 years in junior college, he transferred to Miami. He was a starter for 2 seasons, including starting every game at left tackle last season for the Hurricanes in their march to the national championship game, and didn't give up a sack all season long. You know what time it is. It's Howie season, baby. Good to see you. Hello and welcome into On the Clock, presented by Toyota, official partner of the 2026 NFL Draft. I'm Danny Pommells here with the Super Bowl champion Barrett Brooks and our draft insider, Mr. Ryan Fowler, there anchoring the edge. Where do we start, fellas? How about it? Let's go with Jonathan Greenard, a massive boost to this defensive line. Barrett, he brings a veteran presence, he brings experience, and had almost 30 sacks over the last 3 years.
He brings explosiveness, just like you said, that leadership. And now they have somebody that you have to game plan for. When you're an offensive coordinator, you're like, all right, we've got to make sure we bring protection that way, which is going to open up everybody else on that defensive line. He kind of completes the whole machine as they go rolling into next year. So I'm excited to see what he can do and pair it up with these young guys like Smith and, and Hurst. This is going to be a great opportunity for this defense to be very, very good.
Yeah, hopefully these young guys can learn something from him. But, of course, we talked about the compensation that they sent to the Vikings. But the Eagles backing up the Brinks truck, Ryan, $50 million in guaranteed money, 4-year, $100 million contract for Greenard. Are you surprised by the contract he got?
Not surprised by the contract or what a player that he could be in Philadelphia. You just mentioned it, Barrett, as far as you already have Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith. Well, now you have a guy, a legitimate edge one in this group. And I think when you look back to 2 years ago when Jonathan Greenard was fully healthy, he was the only player in football with 12 sacks and 4 forced fumbles. So that's the type of guy that you're getting, and also finished only second in pressures in the entire league behind Myles Garrett. That's the guy that's coming into this Eagles defense right now, to where you have a 1-2-3 as far as allowing also Jalen Hunt, Nolan Smith to learn behind a player like this, still in his prime at 28 years old. He wanted money. Obviously, you paid him. Now you're going to have him in town for at least 3 to 4 years. I think he is the alpha in that building, going to be around a while.
All right, John Clark actually caught up with Greenard at the Sixers game tonight. Too bad it wasn't the Sixers win to go with it. But let's hear from Clark and Greenard here at the Sixers game.
All right, we're here with Jonathan Greenard. How about an introduction to Philadelphia tonight?
Man, it's crazy. Environments, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be. Crazy environment, welcoming and everything. So I'm excited.
What do you want to tell Eagles fans that you're going to bring to this city and the team?
I'm going to bring that same energy I've been doing my whole time in the NFL. Looking to bring some more hardware, too. So that's the main thing on the go, on the mindset.
Final question for you. Vic Fangio's defense. You've seen what it can do. Yeah. How do you think you're going to fit into it?
We're going to find a way. I know that. He's a genius for a reason, and one of the best in the game for a reason. So I'm excited to see what we're going to draw up. I can't wait to be a part of it.
Well, thanks for stopping.
Likewise.
Welcome to Philly.
Appreciate you.
Let's go.
All right, John Clark, not at the airport. He was here at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. But how good can Greenard be, guys? Just putting it all out there, full disclosure. He did have a drop-off in his sack production this past season, 3 sacks for him. But it seemed like him and the Vikings had a bit of a falling out, so he was a bit disgruntled, and they were ready to move on from him. But just how good can he be in this Vic Fangio offense, right?
Yeah, he battled a shoulder injury.
Defense.
Yeah, he battled a shoulder injury this year, but it's nothing concerning heading into 2026. But when you look at his game as a guy that you could play as a 3-4 outside backer, he can put his hand in the dirt as an even front end, so he can really do a lot of different things for your defense. I think right away he's a guy that can, as far as the explosiveness off the edge, Barrett mentioned at the top, one thing that stands about Jonathan Greenard is he'll mix up his looks. The tempo that he plays with off the edge is extremely mature and nuanced, really more than anything you were going to find in this draft class, likely in that day 2 bucket. So again, this is a guy they prioritized. credit to the Eagles pro scouting staff. This is the day and age, or just really in a time right now where we're talking about the collegiate scouting staff with their draft picks, but a credit to the Eagles pro scouting staff understanding that this guy in Jonathan Greenard was on the trade block and going and get their pure edge one that they needed.
All right, let's look at their room right now and the edge rusher room and who's on the roster as it stands right now. And Barrett, this feels like a pickup that they're trying to make to try to capitalize on whatever this Super Bowl window is that they have right here. And you see Greenard, Jalen Hunt, Nolan Smith. I mean, he immediately becomes the highest paid player among those guys, as well as the most experienced guy there. What do you think about his acquisition and making the move here that the Eagles did?
Well, one thing, he's about 10 to 20 pounds more than all those guys we have sitting on that list right now. You know, Advocates, he's probably up there right around, probably 10 pounds, less than him. But, a guy that can set the edge. You're going to have to be responsible for him in coverage when you're, in protection. When you're an offensive coordinator, you got to send a back his way. You got to leave a tight end on that side of the ball. Those are all things you have to game plan with his presence being there. And we saw how good Jalen Hunt can be. Not even talking about the secondary where we went out, and kind of assured our cornerback position. So him being there is a major key as far as what you need to do to have, more of a threat and generate more pressure on quarterbacks. So I love what's going on right now. This team is putting people in the places it needs to be. Howie is definitely shoring up a team. I mean, I'm talking about now. I'm saying it right now. This is how you get Super Bowl runs going. Bringing in a talent like that, drafting well. They're doing a fantastic job right now. Yeah,
his presence also, guys, so I think right away he's going to see some looks in isolation. And what I mean by that is you cannot double everybody. You can't double Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Jonathan Greenard. So if you're a veteran like he is and the success that he's had in the NFL already, okay, well, you want to put a tackle and a guard, potentially slide out there or keep a tight end in, well, that reduces an eligible on the perimeter. Then you have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis isolated. Okay, then we got backers like Jahad Campbell coming through the A and B gaps. So he also expands what you can do on the defensive side of the ball as far as looks, what you're lining up pre-snap, and how you're attacking once that ball is snapped off the line of scrimmage.
You're going to have to bring in solid protection, meaning you're going to have to bring in extra blockers. You got to keep a tight end in. You got to keep a running back in. That's just one less person that goes out in routes. You leave that one person in there, then you don't have enough out there to really get the ball out. So I think this is going to be great. Just like you said, Campbell coming in. If he gets that blitzing, credit to, his repertoire, he's going to be a really big factor. And, you can't double team everybody, just like you said. But you look at it. Man, one-on-one on the outside or one-on-one with those big guys in the middle, it's just, impossible to really, stop everybody at the same time.
And Howie does it again, sending the compensatory pick that they got for Milton Williams signing elsewhere with the Patriots, and they send that to the Vikings along with a third-rounder next year and get back the guy that they really needed to bolster this defensive line. Fantastic stuff. But their first pick, 54th overall, was a guy out of Vanderbilt, tight end Eli Stowers, winner of the Mackey Award as the best tight end in football. And, there were 4 tight ends selected in the second round. He was the first to come off the board, a bit of a run thereafter. But this guy is a freak athlete. We talked about the fact that he he switched positions from a quarterback in high school to be a tight end here in college. But a 46-inch vertical, a 4.5 40 for a tight end his size. He seems like the prototypical type of guy that this NFL likes to have on their roster. He seems like he fits the mold, no?
Yeah, the potential for Eli Stowers is off the charts. When you look at Vandy, that was a run-heavy offense in Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator for the Vanderbilt Commodores.
My guy, Tim Beck, Kansas State guy. He was my coach at Kansas State.
Yeah, it's just, look, they got after it in the ground game. But Eli Stowers...
And it speaks to his lack of touchdowns, only having 4 touchdowns. Yeah.
So he was asked to win, guys, in the shallow to intermediate areas of the offense. Well, when you look at Sean Mannion in the Green Bay offense last year, look at Luke Musgrave, look at Tucker Kraft. Their ability in 12 personnel, which means 1 running back and 2 tight ends. They're tight ends to stretch the seam. Well, then you have Devontae Smith on the outside. You have Mekhi Lemon on the outside. You're going to force teams to get lighter, meaning you're bringing another corner or another safety to combat a guy like Eli Stowers that can not only win up the seam, but also win, again, you're seeing right here, over the middle of the field. That guy's too slow. When you go over the top, excellent hands, natural hands catcher. Progresses as a guy that was recruited as a high-level quarterback, goes to New Mexico, Then goes to Vanderbilt, first team All-SEC back-to-back years, All-American in 2025. Mentioned the Mackey Award as the nation's top tight end. This is a guy right away that will expand your offensive playbook as far as what you're doing from an aerial perspective, and that's another weapon for Jalen Hurts and more so Sean Mannion to use in this offense.
And one thing about these guys, Markeel Lemon, Eli Stowers, is you see the progression, the growth from year to year that these guys are showing off. They're maturing and becoming better players as the years go on. But something I wanted you guys to clarify, you see this new scheme by Sean Mannion. You pick up Lemon and then you get Stowers. It seems like there's an emphasis on working that middle of the field now.
Well, you're going to have to. That's what we didn't do a lot of the time. Let's just put it in perspective. There's no more 15-point games, 16-point games that'll be acceptable in this locker room now. You're going to have to go out there and score points. And when they're bringing in people like that, that's how you get, open things up. Now you got to think, all right, am I going to stop the run? Do I bring a safety down into the box to stop the run? Right. Well, if you do that, I mean, one-on-one on the outside with Lemon or Smitty on the outside. Then you have Stowers who can, flex out and be an H-back, or he could be a slot receiver. A lot of teams said, all right, we can make him a receiver. He has that type of skill set. He's a really, really good athlete. And you give him the potential, to 50-50 balls. 45 is vertical, guess where that ball is going? Guess where I'm going to put it at?
Right.
So, it just opens up everything. And then when you run play action, just like he said, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, one running back, 2 tight ends, or one running back, 3 tight ends, now you have weapons. Dallas Goedert, Stowers. You have guys, Grant Calcaterra, who can go out and catch like receivers, but still be able to run solid protection and push the ball down the field to the receivers. This is a match made in heaven because now we're starting to get guys for Mannion to really open up the offense instead of, closing things down.
Yeah, the offense for Sean Mannion, guys, broken down to the studs, is an offense that's going to have a lot of play action, but the formations are going to look very similar pre-snap. You could align with a single back, an I formation if you have Saquon Barkley, single back. You could line play action off of that same look. You could have boot action. You could have misdirection. Everything's going to look the same pre-snap, but what you're doing when that ball is snapped is different. This is going to be a play action heavy offense, but it's also going to be rhythm based. Timing in the passing game. When Jalen Hurts' head gets around and that back foot hits the ground, it's got to be out. You got to have guys that can separate in that case. Markeel Lemon, Devonta Smith, Eli Stowers, 5 to 10 yards of range of the offense. You're making it easier on Jalen Hurts when you have guys like this that can separate on the outside.
Really quick before we move on, Dallas Goedert, back-to-back one-year deals. What does this mean for his future, or do you think it's an indictment on him, or has anything to do with how the Eagles are looking at him? Or
I think it's more so what the offense is going to, what you're going to have to do with the offense. When you're going to run bunch formations when you have 3 guys on, when a head, point at the head, then you have 2 guys on the outside. You have that bunch formation, which can be, put Lemon there, then Stowers, then you have Smitty right there. Now, when them guys come out in their pass routes, it's going to confuse a lot of defenders, so it just opens things up. And plus, with them running zone, the way they run zone, and they're going to, use that as more of a blocking formation, get the ball on the outside. There's so many packages that you can have, with the personnel packages that they have. I mean, that's huge. All these personnels can, run exactly what they want to run, and that's zone offense, and then coming off with the boot.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing the Eagles are going to see a ton of man defense this year, specifically because of their guys on the outside that can really separate guys.
All right, and with their last pick here in the 3rd round, the Eagles got a mammoth of a man, 6'9" Markeel Bell out of Miami. Now, it's interesting because he played tackle here in college, but do you project him to be a tackle with the Eagles, Barrett?
Yes, I think he's going to be a tackle. Yeah. I didn't have him as ranked as high. I thought he was going to be a third day guy, but they got him at 6'9". Maybe they saw him. They love the measurables, so, look at it.
But he's not the Lane Johnson succession plan.
I couldn't tell you. I thought Williams was the Lane Johnson succession guy. They got 2 guys, Hinton. Now they have him.
Right.
So at this point, whoever wins it now,
you said that Jalen Williams, a guy they drafted last year, Cameron Williams, a guy drafted last year, you felt like that they still like those guys from last year.
I think they do. That's why I didn't think they were going to get another tackle. I actually thought they were going to get another, a guard, to kind of, because I don't think we have enough guards to back up right now in our offense. We need more guard play. I think we're like one backup on each side, and not really a center at this point. So I just thought we would go with the guard instead. You know, I was wanting my guy with the, you know.
You're talking about
Jennings Dunker is, you know, the redheaded with the, you know, flowing.
Well, guess which team drafted him just now? Your other team, the Steelers. They just picked him up. So
I mean, I was just having all kind of, you know, great conversation. I'm thinking to myself, you know, can you have Dickerson and Cam Jurgens and that red flowing hair from
Jennings Dunker.
Jennings Dunker. Can you imagine that, you know, blowing in the wind? Those three in overalls,
right?
No shirt on,
bonding. Yeah. What do you think of Markeel Bell, Ryan?
I think he's an ascending player. I'm a little higher than Barrett is on Markeel Bell. I know he's a massive human being, and it's. I think it's easy to say that he's going to be at least decent because he's that big, but sometimes, you know, you got to take an Uber to get around this guy on the outside. And just because he is 6'9", 346, one thing that I love in his game, guys, is he plays wide. He's a big human being, but he does not play narrow. Now, his build's a little bit different. A lot of that weight's in the upper half. He's a little bit high cut. I want to see a little bit more bend in that lower half. But one thing about Markeel Bell, 558 pass pro snaps this year, not a single sack allowed.
And they went all the way to the national title.
All the way. And he showed up, Danny, in those big-time moments for the Miami Hurricanes, shutting out Indiana, shutting out Ole Miss, Texas A&M, all in the CFP. So I think he's an ascending player. Is he the guy that's going to take over for Lane Johnson? I'm not sure as of right now. But I will say this, as we talked about last night, as far as competition in the receivers room, you now have also competition between Cam Williams, Miles Hinton, and now Markeel Bell in the tackles room as well.
Show me wrong, big fella. Show me wrong.
All right, 6'9" We don't want him walking up here with a bad attitude. That is for sure. And to me, that means that they had needs to address, and they were attacking them with fervor and intensity in this draft. And we saw that with them trading up, with them trading for other players that they thought would help this roster. He also said that they are here to accentuate these players' strengths and develop the things that need to improve. And with that in mind, he also said that Markeel Bell was a passion player for us. So this is somebody they really liked, Ryan, and must have impressed them enough to make sure that he was on this roster.
Yeah, it's a guy, as I mentioned earlier, that continues to ascend, guys. I really think when you look at his tape, Howie mentioned it there as far as a guy that started out at Holmes Community College and then went to the ACC at Miami. And there's a lot of alphas down there at the Miami program. There's a lot of 4 stars and 5 stars going around. Who did he face every day at practice? Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, 2 first-rounders that we saw go off the board last night. So for me, Markeel Bell, again, not a perfect player right now. There's much needed improvement there, specifically as such a big player. I'd need to see more leg drive, sustained drive, just bully guys. You're 6'9", 346.
Yeah.
Worst word in football to describe somebody is soft. I don't want to say Markeel Bell is soft. I don't think he is, but I want to see more physicality in that tape as a run blocker. I think he may be a little bit limited right now as far as in a gap scheme.
Yeah.
We're going to see some more zone in Sean Mannion's offense, but there are absolutely a lot of traits to work with here with Markeel Bell as a long, rangy player. This is a pass-happy league, and someone out on the outside, again, 0 sacks allowed in 2020.
Yeah, when you're bigger than everybody else, you probably never have to use your full strength. You know what I'm saying? So he's just out there, like, doing what he needs to do to get the job done.
You shouldn't be told that, though. You shouldn't be told that. You know, this is a gladiator
But
sport.
that's the motor thing, right?
Right,
the
right.
motor always comes into play.
And that's precisely what I'm talking about because, you know, I need to see more pop, more explosiveness at the point of attack, not just in the run game. You know, when you hit, keep going. You know, you want to pop somebody and get inertia just to push through it. I don't see that with him. I see him feeling his way through blocks. You got to learn how to get that explosiveness. And there's a lot of guys he can learn from, Lane, Jordan, that'll show him how to do that. Also, you know, you got to understand, they're at another level up here. The speed is at another level. And he had a little problems against, you know, speed rushers. So he may have won against those guys in practice. Doesn't mean he won, though, you know. So that's what I'm looking at. And it's going to take him a little while to get accustomed to that speed, you know. But, I mean, you can't take that away from him. You know, he's a 3rd-round pick, and he's going to have to be ready to roll, you know, come day one.
Of the 2026 NFL Draft, the 2-time champions and reigning NFC East champions, Philadelphia Eagles select Eli Stowers, tight end from Vanderbilt University. Super Bowl 50 champions.
Hello.
The Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles select Markeel Bell.
Yeah, a night those young men will never forget. We're here at the demo roll with Barrett's Breakdown, brought to you by Toyota. And how about it, Barrett? Eli Stowers, you can see the waterworks were flowing for him. He could barely keep his eyes dry, but all the same, a special night here as he's the first tight end off the board. And what made him the first tight end off the board in the second round?
His ability to work the middle of the field. You know, we talked about Jalen having to work the middle of the field now, and he's going to use tight ends. Tight ends are a quarterback's best friend, and his ability to run routes like a receiver is going to only help him. You can put him out there. So here he is right here. They're going to try to go man-to-man with him. Come on now, if you got a linebacker on him, they're not fast enough. When you got a safety on them, they're just not big enough. You know, so here he is, just goes up. You're too small for me. You know, he's going to dibble on a little safety. You know, it's like taking candy away from a baby. Here once again, you can't go man-to-man to get him because these guys are too small. Here he is. This is a safety trying to get him. He runs by the safety. That's how good of an athlete he is. He just ran straight by him. Yep. He's that type of special player. Once again, you put him in the slot. You notice you don't see him on the line of scrimmage. He's in the slot again. He goes out in the middle of the field, hits him, and run after the catch. Boom, boom, he gets hit, still takes it into the end zone. He's got that yak yardage aspect to his game also.
Yes, he does.
Once again in the slot, like he's a receiver.
Yeah.
Big build, 6'4"?
Yep.
Can run like a deer, and that's what you need. Now, this is a coverage breakup. You know, they messed up on the coverage. Nobody went with him. But he does still have playmaking ability that he probably outrun most of the safeties that are in the game and half the corners in the game also. So he is a gifted athlete, a gifted guy that can come in and really, you know, roam the middle of that field on the defensive side of the ball and be matchup nightmares against smaller safeties and just run by most linebackers.
There was a question during the press conference, Ryan, about his blocking ability, and you were shaking your head like that's not really a concern. Can you expound on why you think that's not necessary?
Yeah, it's why you have Grant Calcaterra in the building and you have Johnny Munt, right, as a veteran in the building. You brought in Eli Stowers to expand your offense through the air. You just saw it right there. You know also you can separate against man at 6'4", 250. One of the plays there against Texas scoring that touchdown is against zone. He came off the line of scrimmage, immediately turned back to the quarterback. He didn't run to the spot and then turn. At the NFL, windows are tight. When he came off the line of scrimmage and came here, look, said, quarterback, give me the ball and then let me get in the end zone and let me work after the catch. So he also has the instincts to win against zone coverage as well. As much as we talk about winning against linebackers and safeties, as he will at the NFL level, the zone instincts right away will show up.
Yeah, I mean, they'll find a way to get him and make him a blocker. You know, you can learn that on the NFL level, you know, but his job basically is go out there, catch passes, and open up the offense, and that's what his job is going to be.
We'll see if Jalen Hurts can hit those tight windows. But Eli Stowers spoke with the media earlier tonight on a Zoom call. Let's have a listen.
Hey, hi, Eli. Congratulations on being picked here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How much pre-draft interaction did you have with the Eagles, and did you think that this might be the landing spot for you?
I did have a formal interview with them at the combine, and you know, I definitely thought that this could be a possibility. And so, you know, I'm so thankful right now.
We'll go to Dave and then Johnny.
Hey, Eli, congratulations. Can you take us through your story a little bit? I know you were a college quarterback and then flipped to tight end. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I was coming out of high school, I was a quarterback. I went to Texas A&M. And while I was there, I dealt with a shoulder injury, and I tore my labrum, and I got surgery. And you know, I played quarterback there, and things just weren't going like they could. I couldn't throw the ball the same after the shoulder injury, and so I ended up going to New Mexico State, just trying to start somewhere fresh. And then at New Mexico State, I was competing for the starting job there. Diego ended up winning the starting job, and so I went into Coach Beck's office, our OC, and I said, Coach, I'm willing to do anything to help the team. And, you know, I know I have the ability to. I played offense, defense, special teams. I don't care. I just want to get on the field. I know I can help the team. And that's when he suggested moving to tight end. And so that year I transitioned to tight end, still playing a little bit of quarterback. And then after that season, our head coach and our OC both left and went to Vanderbilt. And then I followed him there, and I was full-time tight end the last 2 years. So.
Yeah, without that switch, he wouldn't even be in the NFL because he's playing behind other guys at quarterback. Like, that would never have worked out.
And it's my guy, too. His coach, Coach Beck, actually coached me at Kansas State University, you know. And, you know, he's one of the brilliant guys as far as running offenses. And I could kind of tell, you know, that once he looked and broke down that guy, he could transfer easily because he was a pretty big quarterback there, but then easily to the tight end position because he's an athlete. 45-inch vertical, he can do just about play any position he wants to play.
Speaking about the quarterback stuff as well, and then you go out to the perimeter, understanding coverages. We saw it against zone, see it against man. Certain things he can line them at the line of scrimmage and understand, hey, they may be in zone here or they're in man. Maybe give a little indicator to Jalen Hurts, throw up the ball. Because I'm at 6'4", 45-inch vert. That's an NFL, or excuse me, an NBA type of vertical where you can go up above the rim of guys. We talked about it earlier, the separation ability combining with that athletic profile. He's going to be really fun to watch in Philadelphia.
Maybe Sean Mannion working the trick plays. This guy can throw the football, you know what I'm saying? All of a sudden, some type of Philly, you know what I'm saying, special. But nonetheless, Markeel Bell, a guy that the Eagles are going to have to do some work with, and a guy that maybe Barrett isn't quite ready to step into the offensive line right now, and Jeff Stoutland isn't here, so it'll be interesting to see how he develops. But what did you see from him on the tape?
Well, Coach Cooper's going to have to get him, get that initial, when you hit contact, you're going to see that he kind of stops his feet instead of driving straight through contact. And he's going to learn that from Coach Cooper. He's going to learn that, watching the lane and those guys. So here, this is a run play. And watch the initial hit. It's just not explosive. He gets up the field, and he just engulfs guys. He's just a huge human being. He engulfs guys, Here is, once again, a run play. Now, you have to get off the ball. You got to hit guys. You got to drive them off the ball. But, it's like he came up and just touched them. But he's so big that they really can't do anything about it, And then, but let's watch him get out in space a little bit. He can move. He can get his feet out there. It's kind of like a player where she's got to get out on the screen. He gets out there, gets his block. That's a touchdown block he got there. He was able to get to the second level. Not touchdown, but get to the second level and have a big play. Here's just his package play. This is a pass set. He's playing left tackle. He's got to get his hands on him, and then he sits down. He's got to sit his butt down a little bit. He's got to push back a little bit. Once he learns to sit his butt down, anchor a little bit, he's going to get better as a player. But right now, he's got to learn to mature and get a little more pop at contact, learn to bend his waist a little bit. And just, because these guys are going to try him. Mm-hmm. And they're going to try him at practice first. Yeah. And then you learn at the NFL level that when you get in games, they're trying to feed their family. Mm-hmm. So it'll be a little different from when it was in college.
This is what coaching and this is what player development is why it's so important for young men like this, because there are all the tools and traits in a guy like that could potentially get some starts in his NFL career. No one's sitting here going to say that he's going to be Lane Johnson or Jordan Mailata, but potentially a tackle down the road, I think we could also see that. But you saw there as far as how high cut he is, the leg drive is just really not there right now.
Got to move, pick him up, put him down.
It's a high center of gravity. You want to see such a big guy. You want to sink in the lower half. Big guys that don't bend, guys in the NFL. You look at a guy like Nick Bonito out there in Denver or the TJ Watts of the world in Pittsburgh. We talk about ankle flexion, the ability to get around that outside shoulder with speed. Markeel Bell not bending here, bending down, right? To be able to get down and push guys into the dirt. He's got to work on the little things.
You can't be a waist bender. You waist bender. I mean, as soon as you bend your waist, it locks your legs up. You can't pick them up, put them down like you need to. So it opens up right to the quarterback. So he's got to learn to sit that butt down a little bit, bend those knees. Ooh.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Make sure you can get back up now.
Let's go now. But he's got to learn that. You've got to make sure you do that. He's got to keep his feet moving, too. Yeah. It's got to be, instead of just lumbering. You can't lumber.
All right, let's hear from Markeel Bell after he was drafted here tonight.
Hey, Markeel, congrats, and thanks for taking the time for us today. We're going to start with John McMullen and then go to Brooks.
Hey, Markeel, congratulations. Welcome to Philly. Just wanted to ask you about your pre-draft process with the Eagles. What do you remember about it? And did you know they were this interested in you to potentially taking you?
One thing that, obviously I took a top 30 visit, and I knew they had great interest in me. And, it was just a great environment just for me to come down there to Philly and, just blend in, just being well with the coaches and the culture they've set. And so I saw myself in Philly. I envisioned myself in Philly, and it came together.
We'll go to Brooks and then Jeff Nyberg.
Hey, Markeel, welcome to Philly. I'm curious, from your college career coming from JUCO to Miami and then not giving up a sack all the last year. Obviously, you saw top competition. What equipped you in that process, and what do you think you proved in your final year?
Well, it's no secret sauce too. I just work my tail off every day. I go against great players, and I have great coaches behind me. and I'm looking forward to doing the same thing in Philly.
An epic draft story was written last night. Markeel Bell getting selected first by the Steelers, who weren't actually on the clock, then by the Eagles. Today, he was introduced by the team at their practice facility. The 20th overall pick out of USC discussed the toughness he brings on the field.
I think it's just the mentality and the heart that you play with. The body type, you can get fooled by that. But, your heart and your mentality that you approach to the game can take you a lot farther than, just your height and your size. I had it in me before I even, realized it. And then just growing up older and older, just grew even stronger. And then just playing the game with so much heart and passion, just taking it so serious. And then when I step onto the field, just try to dominate. This is the game I love. So, I don't cherish, any time that I step on the field.
Is there anything?
And Lemon's night was just getting started. He came across the street to the Xfinity Mobile Arena to ring the bell before the Sixers game against the Celtics tonight. Got a big ovation as he was introduced and gave that bell 3 raps. Weird thing is that he was at the game with Devontae Smith, which on the surface isn't weird at all because that's his teammate, but Smitty is a Celtics fan, so he had a weird introduction to the Sixers-Celtics rivalry with Devontae Smith sitting next to him, rooting for the other team. But nonetheless, a tough loss for the 76ers, but good to see Markeel Bell out there mingling with the people. And what did you think seeing this kid getting introduced here? I mean, I know you went through the same experience, Barrett, coming from a different city and getting introduced and what Philly's like.
It's an altogether different, way of thinking when you get to Philadelphia. There's no other place, there's no other franchise like here that you have to deal with the fans that are here.
Well, he got the full introduction to the fans at the Sixers game.
And I can only imagine him getting and he's riding over to, to the not the No Care Center anymore, the workout facility, and seeing cars parked in the middle of the road. And I mean, it's just a different mentality. You just got to understand. People here live, eat, sleep, and breathe Eagles football, and he's going to definitely see that. I mean, it's a lot different being in California, and the California attitude. It's intensity here, and he'll be fit right in because he's going to be just like the people and the fans that are here.
The funny thing, Ryan, is that he comes to the game with Devontae Smith, and that's his teammate, but his other teammate, Jonathan Greenard, is like a few seats away. He didn't know that would be his teammate, right. But it ends up being his teammate by the time the night's over.
Yeah, you got 3 Eagles in the building.
Right.
All going to be teammates, right?
Right?
That's pretty cool. But as you said, he's been integrated into the city pretty quickly. He's a guy right now, obviously, I'm excited to see him get in a helmet, see these guys getting pads. You've had 3 picks. You had 3 guys on offense. You bring in Jonathan Greenard. I know we got a little bit of downtime after the draft with rookie minicamp coming up. I'm really excited to see all these guys getting pads and get to work.
Yeah,
they're down busy right now.
Yeah, and they're working in that new offense for sure. So it will be a very intense offseason program for this Eagles team. Clock, the Eagles GM Howie Roseman swinging a trade tonight for Vikings edge rusher Jonathan Greenard. In exchange, they send the 98th pick this year, plus a 3rd rounder in 2027 to the Vikings. The Eagles also inked Greenard to a 4-year, $100 million contract with $50 million guaranteed. The Eagles kicked off their night by picking Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers with the 54th overall pick in the 2nd round. Stowers won the Mackey Award as the top tight end in the country last year. He had 62 grabs for 769 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. How about capping off their night with an absolute mammoth of a man, Miami's Markeel Bell, offensive tackle from Miami. He is 6'9", 346 pounds. After 2 years of junior college, he transferred to Miami and started every game at left tackle last season. Didn't give up a sack on their march to the national championship. Here are Dave Zangaro and Reuben Frank on a busy night for the Eagles.
Rube, we knew Howie had a splash in him. It comes on day 2 of the draft. He trades for Jonathan Greenard with the Minnesota Vikings. I guess was one of the worst kept secrets. This trade was going to happen. Howie gives up a 3rd round pick this year, a 3rd round pick next year, and the Eagles get a 7th rounder back as well. Greenard gets a 4-year, $100 million contract with the Eagles. What do you make of the move?
Well, I think it's a great move for this franchise. When you look at the Eagles' pass rush, they weren't able to keep Jalen Phillips. He goes to Carolina for $30 million a year. I think this is a better player, a more productive player. And I like Jalen Phillips, but I think Jonathan Greenard, his sack numbers were down. He had 12.5, 3 last year, but his pressure numbers were really good. His pressure rate was really high. He was 15th out of 83 edge rushers in pressure rate, according to Pro Football Focus. So I'm not really that worried about the sack numbers. He's a really consistent guy, plays at a high level. And, you know, honestly, Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith are kind of question marks, maybe Nolan more than Jalix. But Jalix has 8 career sacks, and Nolan Smith had 3 sacks last year. So they need more than that. And I think both those kids have a lot of upside, and we've seen certainly both of them play at a high level. Nolan Smith in the postseason in 24, and Jalix at times over the last year and late in 24. But I feel like they needed more, and I think Howie didn't make it a secret that they needed more as far as pass rush goes, and they got a really good guy. He's a Pro Bowler 2 years ago. He's still 28, and they think he's got a lot of football left.
Yeah, when they couldn't sign Jalen Phillips, it was like, all right, you can't just add one veteran like Arnold Ebiketie and hope that everything's okay. You had a top-of-the-edge rotation type of guy, and that's what they get with Greenard. Let's get to the actual draft picks, though. In the second round, Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. What do you make of him?
And I can't think of Vanderbilt without thinking Jordan Matthews. I don't know why. But, yeah, he's a guy that became a tight end late. He started his college career as a quarterback. He had a shoulder injury, torn labrum, I think he said, and it affected his ability to play quarterback, and he became a tight end. Great athlete. Probably run some trick plays with him, throwing the ball. But it's something they need. I don't know how long Dallas Goedert's going to be here. He's got one more year in him. It's kind of been touch and go the last couple off seasons, so you got the next guy in. You got to work on the blocking side of it, but a really smooth pass catcher and just a great athlete. Another weapon for Sean Mannion. They've added a lot of weapons for him.
Yeah, I think that's the key word for him right now is he's a weapon. He's not a complete finished product as a tight end, a little light, under 240 pounds. Right now, he's a little bit of a glorified receiver, can do some things blocking, needs to get better, but an exciting pick, another weapon for this Eagles offense. And then in the third round, they went to the trenches. Markeel Bell, the giant offensive tackle from Miami, their starting left tackle. What do you think of that pick?
6'9", Dave. Rare height. He'll start out at right tackle. And third round, you know, he's the first offensive tackle they've drafted in the third round since Matt Patchen in 1988 out of Miami, who never played a down in the NFL. So it's kind of an odd place to take an offensive tackle for Howie for this team, but he's an interesting guy. And I don't know if he's the heir apparent to Lane. You wouldn't expect a guy in the third round to be that, but you bring him in, you see what he can do. Third round, you expect him to play in this league.
Yeah, unusual trait. 6'9", 346 pounds, was the starting left tackle at Miami. Francis Mauigoa played right tackle for them, but he was really good at left tackle, didn't allow a sack in 2025. And yeah, in the third round, you have unique traits, and that's kind of the similar thread with Stowers and Markeel Bell, just unique traits in different ways, but that's what the Eagles are looking for, is just guys who have something different about them that they can develop.
Yeah, and Stowers has the athleticism, and Bell has the great size, the great length. As Nick Sirianni just said a minute ago in this room, he's just a really hard guy to get around, and that's what you want from an offensive tackle.
Yeah. So the Eagles have one more day in this draft. Not a lot of picks to work with on day 3, but it is always an exciting day.
And normally you'd expect Howie to generate some picks, but he doesn't really have a way to do that because he has so few picks. I think he's going to draft players with these 3 remaining picks and not try to get more picks.
Yeah, probably not, but with Howie, you never know.
Dave Rube, well done. Check out their work on NBC Sports Philadelphia.com. Okay, you heard the guys talking about it. Ryan Barrett, 5th, a 6th, and a 7th rounder that they got in the Jonathan Greenard trade left for the Eagles here on day 3. Where do they go here tomorrow?
Yeah, I want.
Yeah, go ahead, Barrett.
I want Kamari Ramsey, safety out of USC. I think he can play deep. He can play in the box. I think he's a special type of player. So I'm looking for them. These pick him up in the 5th.
Okay. What about
I'm going to go with a guy I didn't expect to be available on day 3, and that's Kyle Lewis, safety, linebacker hybrid out of Pitt. This is a guy, if you envision him as a football player, think of a Mack truck with a Ferrari engine.
Okay.
And that's Kyle Lewis, could play everywhere for a defense.
So the Eagles addressing some needs there for sure. So far, with the new 4 birds that are in the mix now, with Greenard in the trade as well as the 3 draft picks, what kind of grade you giving the Eagles so far?
I'm giving him an A.
Okay.
You needed a weapon on the outside, you got him. You need a tight end with some pop as an F weapon that can play everywhere. you got him. You needed some tackle help as far as depth and guy with some traits, and you got him. And then you add Jonathan Greenard, who is one of the most explosive pass rushers in all of football when he is healthy. So I'm going to give him an A.
What about you, B?
I got to go A. You know, he filled needs. He's got players that come in, like you said, with unique characteristics and can play. So, you know, I think Howie's done his thing.
Howie season is here, folks, and it is in full swing, as you can see. We appreciate you tuning in here on The Clock. Brought to you by Toyota. For Ryan Fowler, our draft insider, Barrett Brooks, the Super Bowl champ. Check him out every weekday on Birds Huddle. I'm Danny Palmels. Our producer, Mike Mulhern, burning the midnight oil with us. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.